This man spent $2 million to hire an assassin, but the target of the assassination was himself. Although the boss was very puzzled, she still sent Jack, who was ranked second. He could kill any target a kilometer away, and he always makes sure the target did not suffer. However, after Jack received the target's photo, he decisively refused the assassination mission because this person was not an ordinary person, but Joe, the #1 assassin in the assassin world. When Antoinette sees the message, he turns the mission down, saying $2 million isn't worth it. Next, the message goes to Go Young and his gang, who are at a karaoke bar in Prague. The gang has been hiding as workers all along, and now they reveal themselves to kill their targets in just a few seconds thanks to teamwork. Go Young is happy to accept Joe's contract. Just in case, Antoinette also sends it to the Langos brothers, who are killing a guy by tying him to their bikes and pulling at the same time to split his body. Why did Joe want the hitman to kill him? Not long ago, he was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Dying like this would be a pity. Only dying at the hands of another hitman would be a fitting end for him. Moreover, if he died unexpectedly, his girlfriend would receive a huge insurance payout. Seeing how desperate Joe was to die, the boss immediately sent out his ace in the hole. Midnight tonight would be his time of death. Joe left satisfied upon hearing this, but when he returned home, he found his girlfriend. She thought it was a romantic date, but Joe suddenly broke up with her. After doing all this, Joe returned to his home. He unlocked all the doors in the house and waited quietly in the living room for his time to come. He thought tomorrow would be his anniversary, but then his attending physician suddenly called. The lab had mixed up the records. The person with cancer was actually someone else. Upon hearing this, Joe panicked instantly. There were only 4 minutes left until midnight. He didn't know that a group of armed assassins were downstairs. They headed straight for Joe's house. What's worse is that Joe had just thrown away all the weapons in his house. This meant he could only fight them with his bare hands. Soon Go Young and his gang arrive and use cigarette smoke to reveal the laser sensor at the entrance. They easily dodge it and go further inside while Joe speaks from his hiding spot, saying he's canceling the contract. However, Go Young insults him and reminds him contracts should be honored. A gang member follows the voice into the bathroom, where Joe is waiting to fight. The guy is very good at martial arts, but Joe easily overpowers him and throws him through a glass wall. Next, a woman with an axe slashes his back, only for Joe to push her down on the broken glass and drag her throat on the shards to kill her. The previous guy gets angry and attacks again, but when he tries a special kick, Joe breaks his leg. Then he throws him through the wall. Next, another gang member attacks Joe with a sword, triggering another fight. After exchanging a few hits, Joe grabs the man's arm to break it and disarm him. Then he kills him by throwing him against a column. The last gang member comes after Joe with 2 big blades, and after lots of missed hits, she manages to stab Joe on his shoulder. He's capable to continue fighting like this and punches the woman extra hard, causing her to lose a bunch of teeth. The only one left is Goyang, who throws a knife at Joe's leg only for Joe to kill him with a blade from his shoulder. After lighting Goyang's cigarettes as goodbye, Joe leaves the apartment and activates a trap, blowing up his home and killing the toothless woman. Her body is ejected through the window and lands on the gang's car, making it explode as well. On the street, Joe uses Goyang's phone to call Antoinette. He tells her he's canceling the contract and that she can keep the money. But Antoinette has a personal grudge against him. Years ago, when she was still an assassin, Joe killed her father. Now she works as a handler, but the anger has never left her. Furious and still hungry for revenge, she announces that she'll double the reward. As Joe hears motorcycles closing in, he ducks into an old building, only to find himself surrounded by the Langos brothers, who use their bikes as weapons, performing deadly tricks to attack him. OE manages to avoid some attacks, but most of them still knock him down. He spots a pipe on the ground and grabs it. When one of the brothers comes close, Joe strikes him with the pipe, knocking him off the bike, then crushes his head to finish him. The other brother shouts in rage and speeds forward, but Joe kicks the front wheel of the bike, sending him flying. Joe then takes the bike and escapes. At the same time, Antoinette sends the job to the top hitmen in Europe. Lovedale is still in Switzerland enjoying himself with women, but when he sees the reward has reached 4 million, he finally agrees to join. In Scotland, the Mackenzie brothers also take the mission and celebrate by smashing beer bottles over each other's heads. Meanwhile, in a rough club in England, some party girls act like dancers, but their real plan is to kill the clients using weapons hidden in their skimpy outfits. One client tries to resist, but the girls fight well and quickly defeat him. In Spain, a group of criminals is preparing drugs to sell when Batek shows up. Using dance-like moves and the knives hidden in his boots, he kills everyone in the room with great skill. Meanwhile, Joe visits Zvi, who cleans his wounds with glue. Since Zvi is only a handler and has no weapons, he can only give Joe some leftover explosives from another job. Zvi's wife also decides to help. She gives Joe a strong massage that includes cracking his neck. Right away, his headache, dizziness, and double vision disappear. Soon, Lovedale arrives in Budapest by train, and Antoinette sends him all the details she has about Joe, including Maze's location. She also sends her cousin Money to meet Lovedale. Money is irritating and not very smart, but Antoinette promised her uncle that she would train him to be a hitman too. Together, they go to Maze's building and wait for her outside. When Maze comes out, she quickly kicks Money to the ground, but Lovedale punches her and knocks her out so they can kidnap her. The next morning, Joe travels to an old castle in the countryside, and Max soon finds out about it. The information is passed on to all the hitmen, who rush toward the castle. But this is actually part of the plan, since Zvi leaked the information on purpose. At the castle, Joe prepares all his weapons. The Mackenzie brothers are the first to arrive. They enter the castle, and Joe throws a grenade at them before stepping out to fight. At first, Joe does well against one brother, but when the two work together, they manage to grab him and kick him into his suit of armor. Joe takes the gauntlet from the armor and uses it to punch harder with the extra metal. Even so, their teamwork keeps knocking him down. Suddenly, the brothers start arguing with each other, and Joe takes the chance to trigger one of his traps. He pulls a rope, causing a chandelier to fall and pin one of the brothers, pushing him into a mounted deer head that impales him instantly. Joe then breaks off a piece of antler and fights the other brother again. After trading blows, he stabs him to death. Right then, the party girls burst in and start shooting, so Joe grabs the dead body as a shield and runs into another room. The girls throw a grenade, but Joe dodges it and uses the brother's gun to fire back. Another grenade soon follows, and this one injures him before he manages to hide. The gunfight continues until Joe runs out of bullets. One of the girls tries to get close, but she accidentally steps on a trap, and the explosion takes her down. Joe quickly drags her body to a corner, arms her grenades, and throws her at the other girl. The blast kills them both at once. Joe manages to grab their gun, but the explosion throws him through a door. On the other side, Batek is waiting. He quickly disarms Joe and puts in his earbuds, letting the music guide his movements. A hand-to-hand fight begins. Batek is such a skilled fighter that he matches Joe blow for blow. They throw each other across the room, and Batek injures Joe with his boots. Joe manages to knock off the earbuds in return. Since punches are not enough, both men grab swords to continue the fight. After a few minutes, Joe manages to disarm Batek, but Batek grabs a gun and starts shooting. Joe hides behind a table and sets off another trap that blows Batek apart, leaving only his boots behind. Outside, Lovedale's group arrives. He quickly realizes it's a trap when he notices all the hitmen's vehicles parked at the entrance. Lovedale tells Money to stay with Maze while he goes to check the castle. As soon as he leaves, Maze claims she needs to stretch her legs and tricks Money into letting her out of the car. She then pretends to fall, grabs a branch, and knocks him out. Meanwhile, Lovedale calls Joe using Maze's phone. He offers to release her if Joe surrenders. Their talk is cut short when Max shows up with a heavily armed team. They enter the castle carefully, trying to avoid the traps. Joe hides in the shadows and sets off an explosive that wipes out half the team. Then he sneaks up on a soldier, stabs him, and takes his gun. He uses it to kill the rest of the men in the room before escaping through the back door. Lovedale is already waiting in the garden and forces Joe to drop the gun. Before they can make a deal, Maze appears in Money's car and runs over Lovedale, then opens the door for Joe. The two escape together while Max's remaining men fire at them without success. On the road, Joe finally tells Maze the truth about the illness mix-up and his real job. He explains that he only kills criminals, not innocent people, and swears he is retiring. Maze is happy to hear this because she is pregnant. As they talk about their future, Maze suddenly passes out, and Joe discovers a bullet wound on her neck. Joe abandons the car and carries her to the nearest building, which happens to be a church. Luckily, the bullet only grazed her, and she soon wakes up. Relieved, Joe asks her to marry him, and she accepts. The priest is doubtful because they have no marriage license, no witnesses, and neither of them are Catholic. In the end, he agrees as long as they give confession. The priest is horrified when Joe lists all the assassinations he has done, but when Joe says he wants a second chance in life to be a father, the priest agrees to forgive him if he promises to retire. The small ceremony begins, and Joe uses a grenade pin as a wedding ring. Suddenly, Lovedale bursts in and opens fire. Joe pushes Maze out of the way, and the priest is shot instead. Then a grenade is thrown into the church, and the explosion fills the place with smoke, allowing Joe Maze, and the priest to escape. The grenade was Max's, and he begins arguing with Lovedow over who the job really belongs to. While Joe and Maze treat the priest's wound in a back room, Lovedow shoots several of Max's men. Joe soon joins the fight and kills more soldiers. Grenades keep exploding, starting a fire inside the church. When Lovedow fights a soldier hand-to-hand, Max throws another explosive that makes a scaffold collapse and trap him. Max continues searching the church and even kills his last injured man. Joe tries to attack him from behind, but they end up facing each other in a standoff. Joe then realizes he is out of bullets. Max smugly declares victory, but before he can shoot, Maze blows his head off. Meanwhile, Antoinette prepares to flee the country. Zvi confronts her, says she broke the rules just like her father, and shoots her in the head. Sometime later, Joe and Maze have a proper wedding with the priest, now recovered, and all their friends. Joe is ready to start his life as a retired man, but Maze points out that raising a child is expensive and suggests he take a few more jobs. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our next story.